This is your tech news briefing for Wednesday, April 12th. I'm Zoe Thomas for the Wall Street Journal. A group of women who say social media devastated their sons' and daughters' lives is pushing Congress to pass new laws that would force platforms to do more to protect minors. Call it mom power. But Silicon Valley tech firms have, for years, been able to push back efforts to make them more accountable. So, will the efforts of parents make things different? Our tech policy reporter Ryan Tracy joins us now to discuss that. Hi, Ryan. Thanks for being here.
Thank you.
Let's start with these mothers. Who are they and why have they taken on this fight?
These are women who experienced really tragedies in their lives that they blame in part on social media. So one of the leaders, for example, had a 16-year-old son who died by suicide after being cyberbullied. Other ones had children who attempted a blackout challenge and passed away. Drugs online, you name the online harm, these women have experienced it in some way, and that motivated them to get active, to press for social media regulations that, in their view, would prevent these kind of things from happening to other children and other families.
So, what type of legislation are they pushing for? Because there have been a number of bills that have circulated in Congress over the past few years.
Yeah, and that's been one of the issues with trying to get the Congress to adopt tech policy is that there have just been so many ideas and not a lot of consensus about which one to focus on. Kids targeted legislation is an area where you would think there would be 60 votes in the Senate, right? A lot of support for something like that. The specific bill that these mothers want is called the Kids Online Safety Act. It was introduced last year and a new version is going to be introduced soon. What that would do is say to any company that's got a digital product that is likely to be used by children, hey, before you put this out there, you need to be doing some assessment of what kind of harms could happen to young users and take some steps to mitigate or prevent those harms. Now, the tech companies have a host of problems with that, but that's the basic structure, and there are other things in the bill too.
Do they have a specific list of actions that they want tech companies to take?
Each of them has, as part of their own story, something specific that they might want. So, for example, one of the mothers whose son was cyberbullied was really concerned about anonymous messages being sent on social media apps because that was something that happened to her son. And the legislation is written in a broader sense. It doesn't give the tech platforms, here's a 10-point checklist that you have to do. It says, here are some of the things you need to consider, for example, whether features are addictive or whether they could lead to mental health issues, and leaving it open-ended so that if new products are invented that we don't foresee, that it would still apply to those too.
What are the tech companies saying about these specific bills and the efforts that are coming now from parents to push them through?
So the tech companies would say that if you add that kind of potential liability to an app developer or a company putting even just a website out there that kids could find, you could really have some unintended consequences. One potential thing that could happen, for example, is companies could be a lot more aggressive in moderating the content on their sites, because if there's a piece of content out there that causes harm and they could be held accountable for that, well, then they might want to make sure that they really overcorrect and don't have anything that could be construed as harmful. And there are some transgender groups, for example, who are concerned that tech platforms could be pressured to treat any content related to transgender issues as harmful. But the moms say that a lot of these concerns are overblown, and they're having these meetings on Capitol Hill. They're working in state houses to advance proposals like this. And, they're really having an effect. I mean, these are powerful meetings when mothers come in and talk about these tragedies.
Which lawmakers are they targeting?
Well, there are a subset of lawmakers who are interested in this issue but may not believe that these particular proposals are the right one, or may not necessarily want to prioritize them. And one of the meetings I came across was with Senator Maria Cantwell last November. Senator Cantwell is the chair of the Senate Commerce Committee, so she's a very powerful person. And she, was broadly supportive of this legislation, but hadn't really thrown her full weight behind it. And these moms were trying to get a meeting with her. They weren't able to. So they walked into her office one morning holding pictures of their dead children whose deaths they blamed on social media. You can imagine what the staff members of the senator, how wide their eyes were when that happened. And so these moms got their meeting. They talked with her for about an hour. And lo and behold, later that afternoon, she was saying, we need to move this legislation urgently, which was a shift for her. She hadn't been saying that she wanted to pass it before the end of last year. Now, look, it didn't ultimately pass, but it shows that these mothers are kind of an important force here, and that they're one that the tech companies are going to have to start paying attention to and reckoning with.
Two other senators who have sort of been at the forefront of pushing through legislation to rein in the power of big tech are Richard Blumenthal from Connecticut and Marsha Blackburn from Tennessee. Are they involved at all with these mothers?
Yeah, in fact, they're coordinating very closely. Those two senators are the main sponsors of this Kids Online Safety Act that the mothers favor, along with some other advocacy groups. And when the mothers came to meet those senators, they were preaching to the choir, right? These are people who are already on their side. But it was a fairly organized effort last year when that meeting happened. They invited reporters into the room, they had cameras there, and that showed some organization behind these mothers. And, this isn't quite Mothers Against Drunk Driving yet, but it is a new thing in the tech policy space to have mothers organizing like this.
So, what's next for these moms?
Well, they're looking both at the state and federal level to try to move these bills forward. And there's a new version of the federal legislation that's going to be introduced in the coming weeks. And one big question is the House of Representatives, where lawmakers do want to protect children, obviously, but they also are still in favor of passing a broader privacy bill that would apply to everyone. So there's a bit of a strategic difference between the two chambers about how to proceed here, and that's going to be one hurdle to overcome as well.
All right, that's WSJ tech policy reporter Ryan Tracy. Thanks for joining us, Ryan.
Thank you, Zoe.
And that's it for today's Tech News Briefing. For more tech stories, head over to our website, WSJ.com. I'm Zoe Thomas for the Wall Street Journal. Thanks for listening.